Hello, hello. Hello. Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last talk of the day one Atlas Camp. My name is Anmol Agrawal, and I lead the developer advocacy program for Rovo here in Atlassian. So as you can see, the topic of this talk is beyond the basics, leveling up your custom Rovo agents. So if you have never built a Rovo agent before using Forge, don't worry, I'm going to share a couple of resources that we already have. So whatever learnings that you are going to see here, hopefully you will find it valuable. All right, let's get into it. So today in agenda, we'll start off with the no-code agents and versus the Forge agents. So there are two ways of building custom Rovo agents. So we'll take a look at how both of them are different and when to use which one. Then we'll take a look at the agent architecture, like how to decide how to architect your AI agents and what thought process should go into it. Once you have decided, okay, this is the agent that I want to build and how I should architect this, then we'll take a look at the prompt engineering. So prompting is the most important part of AI agents. So I'm going to share a bunch of tips and tricks on how you can improve your prompt engineering. And also I'll back it up with few examples. After that, I'm going to share a couple of ways on how you can improve the UX of your app using real examples. And at last, I'm going to share how you can combine the AI agents with the automations and just redefine the workflow as we have done so far. Excited? Woo! All right, let's get into it. So as highlighted in the keynote this morning, we at Atlassian strongly believe that the future of teamwork is collaboration between humans and AI agents, or AKA AI, Rovo agents in this case. So many of you have already know that there are three ways of interacting with Rovo. So the first is the search functionality, which you can search through all the knowledge base that resides inside Atlassian products like Jira, Confluence, and also the connectors that comes right out of the box. So for example, Google Drive, Slack, SharePoint. So you can search through all that knowledge base. So that's the first way of interacting with Rovo. Then is the chat window, which you might have seen in the UI. And this can be used to search and interact with your documents and perform some basic operations. And lastly, agents. We can use these to help you with very specific tasks as these are equipped with very specialized skills and tools. So let's double click on the agents. So there's two ways of building your custom Rovo agents. One is the no coding way, which is like you just have to do it. You can do it through the Atlassian product UI, and all you have to do is specify the prompts. And the UI product itself comes with some inbuilt actions and connectors. So the only variable, the most important one you have is the prompt. And the second one is the coded agents, which is your very own Forge app, but including prompt too. So the first criteria where they are different is in the complexity of the agent's logic. So although here it says that it's simpler and complex, but it's not as simple as that. The way this happens is if you imagine a spectrum of the complexity of an agent, where the logic could be simple on one side and as complex as on the other side. So the no-code agents somewhere between the simpler side to the intermediate complexity, but the coded agents is good for the intermediate to extremely complex logic. The second criteria is the data sources that these agents have access to. Now, like I said, the no-code agents are built within the Atlassian Rovo UI. So it has already the connectors like the switches and the buttons for Atlassian products, the data that you can get, and also the out-of-the-box connectors, like a couple of them I mentioned, like Google Drive and SharePoint. But with coded agents, you have access not only to the Atlassian product data via the REST APIs, But also you can bring in your own data from outside, like from your own services or own databases using Forge Remote. Next criteria is the functionalities that can be built using both these agents. So as we recommend that if you have an idea of an agent, you start off with the no-coded way. And because all you have to work on is the prompt. And as you continue to progress on it and make it more complex, there might come a point that you start hitting the wall and you realize that a lot of manual work is required just to modify the prompt. In that case, you would start feeling that you need more control over the agent, the prompt, the data that's being passed into the agent. So the better way to do is using the coded way and leverage the capabilities of Forge platform. And lastly is the distribution. Now, once you build a no-code agent, then it resides only on the cloud instance where you have built. But let's say if you want to use that same agent on another cloud instance, we will probably have to do manual work of copying the prompt, the configuration, making sure it's all working fine and testing it. So with the no-code agent, this is one limitation. But as you have already, I think, built Forge apps before, you already know like all the apps have their own, comes with own links, which can be published in the marketplace or can be shared privately. Now, those who have never built a Rovo agent using Forge, just a while back, I gave a session, which is now lives on YouTube in our Atlassian Developer YouTube channel. So you can check it out. It's a 1-hour webinar that we did where we gave one-on-one of the agents, what they are, did some demos, use cases, and live coding of building the agent from very scratch. So feel free to check it out and also share with your teammates if you haven't seen it before. All right, now let's take a look at how to decide what the architecture of your AI agents should look like. So as you'll be in your journey of building agents, you might ask yourself at some point, why not have an agent that can do it all? But this one agent to rule them all approach carries significant risks. So firstly, let's say this super agent performs a task and fails to perform the task, actually. And this creates a bad user experience for the customers, which can in turn make them lose trust in your tool. So that's why it's better to have a diverse set of agents to mitigate risks, bias, and failures. Secondly, having separate agent is just like pulling in one of your colleagues in the real world. So they might be an expert on a specific domain. So it mirrors like a workplace dynamics, which is much more intuitive. And lastly, specialized agents with narrow scopes tend to produce higher quality, more specific results. Next, we are going to see so once you have decided on how you are going to architect your agents, then the first step that you would probably take is start working on the prompts. So we are going to see a bunch of tips and tricks on so that the agent's response is of higher quality and is consistent. Because if you have interacted with any kind of GPT or AI before, you know that sometimes the response is inconsistent and random, and that's what it's called hallucinations, if you have heard of the term. So I'll try to share some tips to drastically reduce that. And also for each of these tips, I'll try to back it up with examples. So the first thing that you can do is to provide clear context and instructions to your agent. And this can either, the agent can itself fetch the clear contextual data from somewhere, the sources, or the humans can provide clear data to it. So the first way to do is by being explicit and unambiguous in the data that agent gets. So example is, instead of saying, summarize this report, you can say, summarize the key findings in this report and in 3 bullet points. So that's very specific. Second way to do is actually provide relevant context. So instead of, let's say, saying, recommend a restaurant, you can say, recommend a vegan restaurant with 5-star ratings and has good reviews. So very specific. And the third way that you can provide clear context and instructions is by providing step-by-step guidance. So you can say, instead of saying write a marketing email, you can say, first draft a subject line with 10 words, then create a short opening paragraph highlighting the product's key benefits. So let's try to combine all of these 3 into a single prompt and take a look how it looks like. So let's say we are working on an agent, which is an AI travel assistant. So you can see, although the prompts could be very long, but I'm going to just focus on specific things that we are going to talk about. So you can see that here it says capabilities could include, the agent could create detailed itineraries, it can suggest accommodations, and there are some of the guidelines in for the AI's response, like, okay, always ask the traveler for all the details that's necessary, their preferences and constraints first, and after that, whatever the response is generated, break it down day by day. And also, you can also see that in this case, the human is providing the contextual data. So like, okay, I need a 5-day itinerary for Japan. Here's my budget, here's my preference. And the more data that AI has, the better the quality of response would be. All right. Another way to improve your prompts is by incorporating examples. So the first way is by providing the very clear, relevant examples. So instead of saying, write a professional email, you can say, dear so-and-so, I hope you are doing well, and I wanted to follow up on our meeting about this topic. So giving the examples, what it does is that it gives an example to the AI agent on what the format of the output should look like. Another way to incorporate examples is you can highlight key patterns or key patterns in your prompt. So the example of this could be, instead of saying summarize this article, you can say summarize this article in 3 bullet points, each under 20 words, and it should look like point number 1, and then short description under 20 words, point number 2, point number 3. So doing this explain that what kind of output should be generated by the AI. And the third way to do this is by showing both good and bad examples. So instead of saying write a concise product description, you can say a good example is a lightweight, waterproof jacket jacket perfect for hiking. And the bad example is like a jacket is really nice and comes in nice colors. That's very vague. So if you give it like what's a good example and the bad example looks like, it will learn from that and try to generate more from the good responses. So the example of this, so this is the example, and I'll pause here for a while, but you can see in this section of the prompt that I have first provide like here's the concrete example of a good response. So taking the travel AI assistant that we are talking about. So you can see there's the day 1, there's timing, the venue, entry fee, how to get to it, and some of the relevant data according to it. And then you can see there's the 11:30 a.m. and that's the lunch recommendation. So I've provided this as an example for a good response. And also I've highlighted like pattern highlights. So like every itinerary detail should be time-specific activities, it should have precise cost and some other specialities. And I also had provided a bad example, like you can see, this accommodation, this nice hotel in Shinjuku with a reasonable price, which is not useful for a user. Another way of improving the prompts is by implementing guardrails. So the guardrails is something like what not to do or how not to do, telling that to the AI agent. So one of the ways to do is by specifying the clear boundaries, for, like what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So example for this is that, let's say if there's an AI agent that handles customer service, so you can specify in the prompt that do not provide medical, legal, and financial advice. Instead, direct users to official sources. Because if it's a support agent, yeah, anybody could ask the financial details, but it's not supposed to do that, just like in real world. Another way of implementing guardrails is using the automated filters and the constraints. So that you can mention, because a chatbot, you can mention in the prompt that the chatbot is not supposed to respond in an offensive language or provide misinformation. So you can incorporate that into the safeguard, into the guardrails. And lastly, you can always incorporate human in the loop. So let's take an example. If there's, let's say, a AI-driven hiring system. So that should require human approval before the candidates are proceeded further, so as to avoid biases. So here's an example of a very small, simple example of how the guardrails could look like. So you can see this, keep things in mind while responding. So in this, continuing with the travel assistant example, like exclude high-risk areas, maintain cultural sensitivity, and protect user privacy. All right. Now, once you have worked on your prompt and you have your agent working to some level, now you want to improve the user experience part of it. So let's take a look at a couple of examples, and I'm going to explain with that. So the one way to do is if the AI agent can ask very open-ended questions to the users. So this is a screenshot, and this Jira Analyst is one of the sample apps or agents that I work on, and I use it to teach how to build Rovo agents. And this is a screenshot. You can see like I ask it to analyze Jira issues. So this agent is capable of analyzing issues in a Jira queue. So I gave it a simple command, and here it says like, okay, do you have any specific labels that you would like to filter it by? Now, I want to share a true story on this. I stumbled upon this actually. I was demoing this app to one of the partners. The whole day it was working fine. The agent was able to pick the right project key by itself. Like there was a little bit of coding behind, but it was able to pick it. The time came when the time came to do the live demo, it failed, and it just couldn't pick up the project key, and it was hallucinating. But fortunately, at that time, I incorporated that I could explicitly provide the project key if in case agent hallucinated. So when I learned that, I made a simple change in the prompt so that bad response that I got, I won't get it in the future. So what I did was, when I told the agent to follow these steps while performing the operation, I added this one line: if it can't get that project key, prompt the user to provide the project key. So very small tweak. So this, using this, the agent now was able to ask open-ended questions. All right, let's take a look at another example. So this same analyst agent, one day I was just experimenting, and I thought, like, let me ask it something, what it's not capable of doing, and see how it responds. So this particular agent doesn't have access to data related, the date related data for each of those issues. And that's why I asked the question, okay, any new issues in last 30 days? Although it says that there was an error, but what I liked about this response was it gave me a JQL query that I can execute to get those data. So, and that's why when I saw that the agent can provide alternative feedback, alternatives and fallbacks, so that as a user, you're not stuck and there's some other way to continue to proceed further, and hence the screenshot. And you can continue to copy this pattern and say, if let's say the agent is not able to find a response anywhere from the knowledge base, we can, let's say, return the response like, okay, if you want to ask this question, maybe head towards our support or community forum. All right, let's look at one more. We talked about the human in the loop thing. Now, human in the loop, it allows human supervision for very critical and high risk decisions. So that ensures that human intervention is, so there are places where human intervention is needed. So in this example, whenever there is anything like a creation, updation, or deletion operation of issues or pages or spaces, it's a good idea to incorporate human in the loop, because otherwise it's possible that unnecessary issues and pages are created. So you can see here an example. So at the top, the AI agent would first show the response that you would like to, let's say, put in the page. And before going further, it would ask for your confirmation. So that's how the human in the loop looks like. Okay, we are at the last section of this talk, the automation opportunities. And this is probably my favorite part. So I'm going to show a couple of examples on how agents can be combined with the automation, and it just changes the way you work. So let's take a look at one example. But before doing that, let's first see like what are the type of tasks that are suitable for agentic automation. So one is, well, we all know that automation is great for enhancing efficiency and improving the workflows. But one of the things that this is great for is the repetitive and routine tasks. So like data entry and processing and support queue analysis, like the one that I showed you, just that's one kind of task that it's suitable for. Another one is decision making and support. So the example are, let's say, fraud detection and investment analysis of, let's say, fraud detection. Let's say there are some number of frauds or tickets that you get within a week, and you want to do a certain analysis on a regular basis. So that is something worth automating to agent. And the third one is a complex, you can try to simplify your workflow by using agentic automation. So examples like IT operations and supply chain management. And actually, I'm going to show these three combined within two examples. So let's take a look at it. So let's say you have an issue queue, and what we are going to do is actually make use of one of the agents that come right out of the box if you get access to Rovo, which is called Jira Theme Analyzer. And what this agent does is that it takes the issues in the queue and try to categorize them into themes. So as you can see, there's mobile features, user experience, and it also renders it in the nice table and shows the issues for the corresponding themes. Okay, so now we have this theme. Let's try to hook it up with the automation. So the automation could look something like this. So let's say you give it some certain time when this automation should kick in, and then this exact Rovo agent. And although I'm showing it for the no-code agent, but this is equally applicable to the coded Forge agent. So you say that you select the Rovo agent, and then you can see on the right side that identify issue themes in Jira project VF portal. So that's the command that prompt that is going into the agent. And whatever the agent's response is generated, let's say in this case, you want it to be sent to a specific Slack channel. So we already have an action called send Slack message, and you just pass on the response. And the end result looks something like this. So you can see there's a Jira theme analyzer. So you can see the response is coming from the Jira theme analyzer, and the response is rendered as expected. So this is a simple example. Now let's take a look at a bit more complicated example. So let's say I want to create a whole new workflow where I want to automatically find gaps and gaps in the knowledge base based on the customer requests that we get, and either create or update articles based on that. So the way we are going to do that, let's say we have this issue queue, and we create the way we have done is, let's say we have created this automation. So in this case, there are two agents working with each other. So the first agent is called knowledge-based librarian, and its task is to analyze the tickets in a queue in the last 24 hours and put them into categories. And the categories that we have told it to define, if this for each topic in the issue, for each topic from the issue, whether the article needs to be created or needs to be updated. So this is the purpose of this first agent, to categorize the issues. Once the category is identified, then it's passed on to the next agent, which in this case we are calling knowledge creator. Now what knowledge creator does is that it reviews that topic and it looks into all the pages in, let's say, a Confluence space, cross-checks it, and based on that, it either creates a draft or it gives a suggestion of like what needs to be updated in an existing article. And once that is done, for each of those updates needed or article creation needed, it will create a corresponding Jira task and add it to the backlog. And that would look something like this. Okay, I'll show in a second. But before that, let's check the automation logs and see how this workflow looks like. So you can see there's some new pages have been published. The status of the pages have been changed to ready for review. So human in the loop will come into the picture, and corresponding issues are created. So let's actually look all of them at one by one. So let's start off with the board, and you can see there are a couple of tickets created in the backlog. Some are they need article, and some are that needs to be updated. So let's click one of them, and it would look like something like that, which would say like, please review this article, and it's about how to book flights using Agentic in this case. So this topic is missing from our existing knowledge base, and we have the agent automatically created that this needs a new article. And once we go into that Confluence, into that page, you can see it has created data. Now you and your team can review it, edit it, and change as per needed. And once it's ready, at the top, you can see that ready for review. You can change the status of the pages, and maybe you can have a new workflow which maybe copies or moves that page into a new knowledge base. So this is an example which shows how an AI agent and automation can be combined together, and it just makes so many parts of our day-to-day work life much more easier, like the decision making, identifying patterns, and we are just delegating most of it to AI because that's what it's good at. And wherever our wisdom and expertise is needed, then we come into the picture, and from there we proceed forward. And that brings to to the end of this talk. Thank you so much.